Well, I know you've already seen that incident, but I just wondered what you made of that interview, Les.
I think he did the same thing against Chelsea. Was it Chelsea? He came out and he was the one that apologised for the performance. And when they came here today, 5 at the back, you look at it and you think to yourself, OK, if you can perform like you performed against PSG, because we saw that, and they had to go. It wasn't a negative 5 at the back. It was a front foot. We're going to go and have a go. We're going to go and press people. They came here and they just sat back and allowed Arsenal to come after wave after wave after wave of attack. And like I said, Arsenal didn't even get out of third gear. Let's not say this was a 5-star performance. The scoreline's 5-star, but it weren't a 5-star performance from Arsenal. They didn't have to. It was in third gear and there was no fight, there was no bite. This is North London, but you're expecting a little bit of spark, you're expecting a little bit of something. And we spoke about it at the start. We said, Arsenal have got 3 players who've never played in North London derby before. Tottenham probably had 1. But there was nothing. There was nothing. We start the show saying, at the start of the week I was thinking about this game. Nothing that those players did out there felt like a North London derby to me.
Jamie, does it make a difference that they changed the setup, or is it the way that the players performed within that structure?
I wouldn't look at the actual playing 5 at the back so much. I think the one negative so far under Thomas Frank is, can he go from being a pragmatic coach and making it difficult for the opposition, as he's tried to do here? It hasn't worked. Let's never forget, Arsenal are a fantastic team and Tottenham's record here is horrendous, no matter who the manager is, no matter who the Arsenal team is. It's more that you're thinking, how are they going to score a goal? How are they going to win the game? Now, away from home, they've scored a lot of goals this season, the most in the Premier League. But again, I keep going back to the underlying numbers, and some people don't like it, chances created or their XG. It's very low and it's very poor. And they've had to score probably one of the goals of the season. And that was the only thing that happened in the game. And sometimes we've all played in games like that, where you go away from home to a tough place, you don't create nothing. But you could, even after watching the first 5 minutes of that game, I think you're probably looking at it and thinking, how are Tottenham what are they going to do here? What's the plan to actually hurt Arsenal? And that has not just been in this game. It's not a one-off that. I watched them against Chelsea when Vicario came out and apologised again. Didn't look like scoring a goal in the game. And that is the problem for every manager who goes from a team like Brentford with Thomas Frank, and we all love him, he does fantastic, then making that jump to a top team. You've got to have more than just trying to stop the opposition. And that's not having a go at Thomas Frank. What I'm saying is the managers who manage at the top and win the biggest trophies, they're there for the reason. They're the best, they're elite, they're special. And the reason they are special is because they can coach teams to be difficult to beat at times, but they can also coach teams to go and win games. And that is the big difference between, managers at a good level in the Premier League and managers who want to manage at the top level. And if you don't get that right, you're not going to be in a job that long.
Can I just add, just the early signs for Thomas Frank were really good. Because when he first went in, and like I said, the game against PSG, the game against Man City,
but isn't that playing to his strength? So he's playing against a team who are probably better than his team, and he's going to make it difficult for them. He's tried to do that today, and it hasn't worked. They get that.
But those 2 games, I still felt Tottenham tried to have a go. Today, I just didn't feel like they tried to have a go at all. And I don't know what the change of mentality is there.
For me to go back to the game, I know you guys passed a bit of the point that I want to make, but it's not the back 5 that shocked me. It's the 2-3. If the 2 guys on the outside of your 9 do not work well to stop that ball on the outside of your 2 6s, Palhinha and Bentancur, as we saw that Merino arrived there, Kudus never went there to help the 2 holding midfielders. So when they were sliding at the very beginning, there was always space on the right shoulder of Palhinha, on the left shoulder of Bentancur. So the back 5, if he stays flat like that and not helping the 2 in the middle, you're going to suffer. Regardless of what it is, you don't need to have a 9 there. They're going to possess the ball in midfield. That's exactly what happened. They got exposed.
I mean, they don't play that system so often. But that is always the fall down of that system. That's what we've been talking about for 12 months with Man United and Ruben Amorim. We're always talking about, when we talk about the back 5, we always talk about the 2 central midfield players. That's the part of that system that will let you down. So in terms of isolation of just today, tactically, yes, that caused them a big problem. But I think the bigger picture for Thomas Frank and Tottenham is he going to be able to, you mentioned before the kick-off, they are missing really good attacking players. We should add that. But the big thing for any manager making that jump is, can he create chances? Can he score goals? Can he go and win games rather than stopping the opposition?
To be fair to him, he did it at City. He went with a back 4, put pressure, played high. So that was pretty positive, that one.
Well, Thomas Frank wants to go back and look at that game in more detail. These are the sort of bare numbers from the game itself. 3 shots, 0.07 expected goals, 4 touches in the Arsenal box, 120 passes in the opposition half, and 52 passes in the final third. They average 54 passes in the final third in one half of football, normally Tottenham. So that's, you know, a sort of 50% reduction. But more significantly, just to put it into context, is of the 12 games they played so far this season, these are the lowest numbers. And perhaps a little more surprisingly, over the last 10 seasons, where they played 392 games, so 380 over the 10 seasons, plus the 12 of this season, they're way down towards 392 in all of them. There is an argument that this is the worst creative performance from Tottenham in over 10 years, Les.
Well, yeah, we saw that today. Apart from Richarlison's shot, I don't remember them having another shot at goal. All the stuff he was talking about, I totally agree with it. But the one word is they didn't compete. Didn't compete against Arsenal today. They turned up in North London derby. Whatever derby you turn up in, you know it's going to be hostile. You know it's going to be fierce. Just didn't look like it today. It looked like tiddlywinks. You know, they just didn't compete the whole game. And you know, if you're a Tottenham fan now, you're as frustrated as anything because go there. Okay, you're playing against what we've spoken about, arguably one of the best team in this league at this moment in time. So what you want to do is just go and compete. You want to go and have a go. You don't want to go there. They laid down today and got rolled over. Absolutely rolled over.
The reason it feels worse is because, as we've both mentioned, the same things were getting said a few weeks ago after Chelsea. That's a big London derby. Then you come here on the back of that, and then it's exactly the same. When you see the ranking terms, it's the worst this season. In some ways, you'd expect Arsenal the best team in the league. You know, so it's always going to be difficult coming here. But what Les is saying is obviously a Tottenham man. This happened a few weeks ago as well, didn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and that's probably going to make Thomas Frank's job more difficult in terms of winning over the Tottenham fans if those 2 performances have come against 2 of their fiercest rivals.
Yeah, but we got to remember, and I said this before. You know, this side finished 17th in the league last year. So you know, same group of players, barring 1 or 2, finished 17th in the league. So it's not going to turn like, you know, overnight. You know, we had a go at Postecoglou last year saying, like, you know, at least they went on the front foot and tried to have a go. Just couldn't stop things going in the other way. But they didn't do anything today. They didn't have a go. They didn't defend well. They didn't attack well. There's no part of the game today that you could look at and say, well, they had a go here or they had a go there.
And you know what Tottenham fans expect more than anyone. And they do want attacking football. They do want beautiful football. But even if that's not being delivered, the players, and Vicario said this a little bit earlier on, is that there are certain non-negotiables in a game. Did they get them today at least?
Football's never changed, no, and that's what he's talking about. The non-negotiables are that you go somewhere and you compete. Okay, you get beat by a better side, but you go somewhere and you compete. They didn't do that today, and you know that Vicario said that when they played against Chelsea, and you come again against your biggest rivals, and the same thing's being labelled at you, and that's your goalkeeper saying that.
Mm. It's a worrying trend in terms of the 2 teams that they would be expected to, if not perform well against, that they would be expected to compete against and look like they were playing with an intensity. And he said intensivity there. I'm just chucking extra syllables in. But they would be expected to play with an intensity against Chelsea, against Arsenal, and if that's lacking, that's what's going to sting. Yeah,
I think there were probably slightly 2 different problems. I was at the Chelsea game as well, and that was the worry there was actually how they were actually going to try and score a goal, and how they can actually play through. Have they got the central midfield players to get on the ball? Have they got the quality? Have they got the courage? Have they got the idea from the manager how they're going to do that? That was definitely lacking there today. That was lacking as well today. But what you'd always expect from a Thomas Frank team, or certainly 9 times out of 10, especially if you're playing a back 5, if you've got 2 holding midfield players who are not great on the ball but are there to stop the opposition, is not to concede goals like they did today, especially right in front of the edge of the box, where you're supposed to have at least 5 players, 3 centre-backs, 2 central midfield players. The space in that position was alarming, and that comes down to, as Thierry's mentioned, actually maybe the system and the problems with that system as well.
That's because I heard him saying that he played in a 5-4-1. I invite you to look at the first goal, 5-2-3, or maybe Kudus. I know the bird didn't understand that they had to go back to the two holding midfielders, because at the very beginning, that's exactly where Arsenal were finding the space. Then, yes, I agree. And after 25 minutes, they went to. It looked like Odegaard was retreating a bit more, less a bit Kudus, but the space was found. On the outside of the two holding midfielders so many times in the first half.